Today we're talking about Sigmund Freud's theory of the uncanny, specifically how the uncanny intersects with literature. But firstly, let's discuss what the uncanny actually is. Freud theorised that the uncanny entails a very specific kind of fear. As Freud himself puts it, the uncanny is that class of the frightening which leads us back to what is known of old and long familiar. In layman terms, the terror of the uncanny occurs when something that seems unfamiliar and strange simultaneously appears eerily familiar and recognisable. Freud hypothesised that human consciousness is compartmentalised into two opposing facets, the conscious and unconscious mind. The conscious mind consists of the rational and logical, whereas the unconscious houses feelings stored since early childhood, ones irrational and often superstitious, ones even we ourselves are not consciously aware of. Hence, the existential terror of the uncanny occurs when the conscious mind is confronted with something that externally appears unfamiliar, yet the unconscious mind registers some degree of recognition, a form of cognitive dissonance characterised by Freud as something being secretly familiar. Now, Freud was a multifaceted academic. He applied the theory of the uncanny to other disciplines. In particular, Freud scrutinised the link between psychoanalysis and literature, specifically the uncanniness present in the arts. He refers to this subcategory of the uncanny as being the aesthetic uncanny. Freud proposed that the aesthetic uncanny in literature is often context dependent. The uncomfortable, even terrorising feelings the uncanny elicits can only occur when a pre-established context has been disrupted. For example, Freud asserts that the appearance of the supernatural and ghostly in older texts is not an example of the uncanny, as these older texts were written pre-Enlightenment. Therefore, spectres, ghouls and demons were at that era in history very real and acknowledged entities, part of the contemporary belief system, whether that be religious or folklore adjacent. What's important to remember is a pre-established context here has not been disrupted or challenged, and although the supernatural may elicit fear, it is not one of the uncanny, as there has been no unfamiliarising of the familiar. The uncanny in literature only occurs when the author chooses to alter the context. Resultingly, the uncanny is created when the author produces a setting or environment that matches our own, the common reality, as Freud calls it, a world where supernatural terrors are universally disbelieved. The common reality that authors create is that of our own, a realistic and modern world, a world possessing a culture of rationality over superstition. Yet an unkindness is produced when our familiar mundane existence is ruptured by unfamiliar supernatural entities. Rationality is therefore destabilised by the abnormal and unfathomable. The uncanny is often found in Gothic literature, such as Henry James' The Turn of the Screw, where the governess's frequent sightings of the deceased Peter Quint disrupt the world of secular modernity that James has created. Reason and rationality is challenged by the very idea of something dead returning. In conclusion, Freud's theory of the uncanny is based upon something that disrupts, whether that be the disruption of the mind, where we are confronted with something that is not fully identifiable, or the disruption of rationality in mediums such as literature, where an established sceptical character's supernatural encounter enables the irrational fear of the supernatural to become genuine.